Hello and welcome back. So in this video what we're going to do is take a look at getting our character positioned and getting a few more patches up and just running around a little bit.
Right, if you remember in a lot of our past videos where we've been testing the heights, our character sometimes drops in from the sky and dies. Sometimes she drops in below the world and falls forever.
Forever.
And every once in a while we get lucky and she lands just right. But we want to make sure that she lands just right all the time. So that's the purpose of this video. To do it, we're going to go to train demo. Inside of the start method, after we create the terrain, not before, but after, we need to do a couple of things. What we want to do is we want to look at our character's position. So we're going to make a new var, we'll call it POS for position, and we're going to go look for our character's position. We can go to the TP controller and bring up instance, and then ask the instance of the TP controller, ask its transform, where are you? By using transform.position. That will tell us exactly where our character is in the world. Now, once we know where our character is, we need to tell the character to make sure that when we start, that you're above the terrain. To do that, we're going to go back to TP controller, its instance, and we're going to tell the transform to set its position to be equal to a new vector 3. So we're giving it a new position. Now the position we want to give it is going to be the same position X. I'll put that in as a placeholder for now, and the same position .z. What is going to change though is going to be the Y position, or the height at which our player is. To get that information, we're going to leverage the same power that we did for sampling that height for any given vertex. To do that, we're going to call on terrain, get height. Let's see, what am I getting wrong? Terrain, hello, active terrain. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting the massive terrain instead of the little terrain. So it was pulling up the Unity's version of terrain
Mm.
because I was using capital T instead of little t. So we're going to say get height, and the height that, or where we want to get that height, is going to be our position X by our position Z or Z. And we also want to add some buffer here. So we don't want it to necessarily drop right at the exact altitude for any errors that could happen, that you might not come in at the right altitude and still fall. So we're going to pad that by an altitude of 10, so 10 additional meters above whatever our height is. And this should come in fast enough that you don't even really notice that initial drop, mostly because of the time it takes to create the world. Now, we're using get height instead of get smooth height, because if anything, smoothing is just going to lower or raise up that altitude just a bit. By using the get height with the padding, we don't need to waste the extra time to do all the smoothing calculations just for this number, so we can just use the regular get height and save some processing time. That should be what we need to get our character in the world. Now, before we go running around in the world, it'd be nice if we had just a slightly larger world to play in. So let's go ahead and try a tile side count of 4.
Okay.
So you want to jump in and see
Sure.
what happens?
Jump on over and let it finish. And give it just a moment.
Right, we're drawing quite a bit more than we were before, so it takes a bit longer to start up. So in this case, I think 4, so we're drawing about 20 tile patches now instead of before, where we
So
were.
10 was perhaps still a little bit too high. Still saw a little bit of a fall, but it worked. I
Oh, did
mean,
you? Right.
yeah. So let's run up here and take a look at what we've got. All right.
So we can run around. We can still see, some some slight artifacting from the process of where we're bringing things in, where some things are kind of squared off here and there. That could be solved by applying more smoothing or blending in yet another layer of even higher frequency noise. A lot of it's going to be trade-off on what you're looking for, how much budget you can afford to bringing into the terrain, because you also have to remember, as we make the visible world larger, that's more patches that have to be calculated every time you walk into a new section of the map. In addition, things that we haven't done here, which is normalizing the patches, the uh, the normals of the patches along the seams, as well. We're not normalizing the tangents that are used as well for calculation. And the difference between this one, which right now is just a flat diffuse shader, as opposed to the one that we've done the screenshots, which actually is using a parallax map for using displacement and making it look much more high detail resolution than you see here, which also does well, what am I looking for? It does a lot to hide the defects that you can pick up inside of the terrain.
Hmm.
So again, it's all an illusion of how detailed you can make something look with the least amount of effort.
So are these things going to be, I mean, I take it at some point we're going to be looking at these things, right?
Of course,
Okay,
but
just
I can't teach you everything inside of a single set of videos.
right. I'm just making
Yeah.
sure, just
Yeah.
because I'm sure somebody's going to be wanting to know.
Well, most of that stuff is I want to keep things in little groups that make sense. So normals and tangents, because those are more reliant on lighting and texturing. I want to keep those into the group when we actually get into texturing this thing. Yes, we have this little simple texture on it, but it was just so we didn't have to look at the white diffuse texture. So this isn't really a texture map and nowhere representative of what we're planning for the series of R&D, other than to put some color on it.
Okay. Now, was this the last of session two, or did we still have a few more things?
Well, there are a couple of things that I want to do with the terrain demo just to clean it up, because right now we're just very quickly adding things in and removing them,
Mhm.
but there's no real organization to how it's done. So the things that I want to cover in the next video are just cleaning up how terrain patches are being created and how they're being destroyed, as opposed to just straight out delete everything. I want to put
Okay.
some timing in there as well.
All right. Well, fantastic with that. That is going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot.